Picture this. It's the dead of night in Sacramento. A 4-year-old boy wakes up his father, a detective hunting one of California's most terrifying serial killers, and tells him a man was just on the roof, shining a flashlight through his bedroom window. The detective rushes outside. Nothing. Nobody. The darkness gives nothing back. What he couldn't have known, what would haunt him for decades, is that the monster he was chasing had almost certainly just been standing on top of his own house. That detective's name was Richard Shelby, and the shadow he couldn't catch? The Golden State Killer. But to understand that bone-chilling night, you need to understand what kind of creature Shelby was dealing with. This wasn't just a criminal. This was a ghost who happened to leave bodies behind. He didn't start with murder. He never does. In 1974, a strange series of break-ins began in Visalia, California. Coins stolen from piggy banks, women's underwear rearranged. The perpetrator became known as the Visalia Ransacker, believed responsible for around 120 burglaries in that one town alone. But harmless was never going to last. At 2 a.m. on September 11, 1975, he removed a window screen from the Snelling home and abducted a 16-year-old girl at gunpoint. Her father, Claude Snelling, confronted him and was shot twice. The girl survived. Her father didn't. Police set up stakeouts. They were closing in, or so they thought. Then came December 1975. Detective Bill McGowan caught the ransacker entering a home. The suspect feigned surrender, then shot McGowan in the face. The bullet struck his flashlight. Fragments ricocheted into his eye. McGowan survived. The ransacker vanished. The crimes in Visalia stopped cold. He didn't stop. He just moved. 6 months later, East Sacramento lit up with something worse. In June 1976, a serial rapist broke into the home of a single woman in Rancho Cordova and raped her at knife point. He became known as the East Area Rapist. Nobody connected him to Visalia. Nobody knew these were the same man. He planned meticulously. He stalked victims for days, peeping through windows, learning their routines. He broke into homes in advance to leave twine he'd use to bind them later, and to unlock windows for his return. He always had an escape route, a stream, a trail, a field. This was not impulsive. This was a man who studied people the way a chess player studies the board, except his endgame was a nightmare. Detective Richard Shelby was the first Sacramento investigator to connect the pattern. When a stack of rape reports landed on his desk, it didn't take him long. Same methods. Same obscene phone calls to victims, going silent about a week before each assault. Same guy, no question. Shelby threw himself into the hunt, and the killer knew it. One night on a stakeout, Shelby had a hunch about a man walking along Dewey Drive in Fair Oaks. Another night at home, his 4-year-old son woke him and said a man had looked in his window from the roof, shining a flashlight into the room. Let that sink in. The detective building the case file. The man who knew more about this killer than almost anyone, the killer climbed onto his roof. He shone a light through his child's window. Then he disappeared into the dark like smoke. Whether it was a taunt, a reconnaissance mission, or something darker still, we'll never know for certain. What we know is that he was fully aware of who was hunting him, and he got close enough to look that detective's sleeping son in the face. He wasn't just evading investigators, he was playing with them. In February 1978, he shot and killed Brian and Katie Maggiore as they walked their dog. He had escalated to murder. Then he migrated south, striking in Santa Barbara County in October 1979, where he was called the original Night Stalker. Nobody knew he was the same man. Not until 2001, when DNA testing finally linked the East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker. One man, all of it. Shelby never let go. When he retired in 1993, he took home piles of documents. So many he built a shed to house them. He wrote a book. He kept working. That's what this case did to people. It consumed them. The break came through something the killer never anticipated: his own DNA. Investigators uploaded his genetic profile to GED Match. Genealogist Barbara Ray Venter built a family tree from distant relatives and narrowed it to 2 suspects. One was ruled out. That left Joseph James DeAngelo, a former police officer who had used his knowledge of law enforcement to evade capture for over 40 years. On April 18, 2018, DNA collected from his car door handle and a discarded tissue matched samples from Golden State Killer crime scenes. He was arrested in Citrus Heights, the same neighborhood where he raped his first known victim in 1976. He had never even left. After his arrest, alone in an interview room, DeAngelo said to himself, "I did all those things. I destroyed all those lives." On June 29, 2020, he pleaded guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder. He will die in prison. Think about the roof. Think about the flashlight beam crossing a sleeping child's face. Think about a detective one floor below, surrounded by case files of the man standing above him. History is full of near misses. Few are as haunting as this one, the hunter and the hunted, separated by a single floor in a darkness that lasted 40 more years. If this story got under your skin the way it should, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started. Drop a comment below. Do you think he knew exactly whose house he was on? Because I think he did. And I think that was the whole point.